The many tales of fallout have mainly focused on the world after the nuclear holocaust. In truth, the Great War began long before the bombs were detonated. The first major event that tipped the scales towards chaos occurred on September 8, 2051. An economic crisis forced the United States to invade its southern neighboring country of Mexico, seizing the country's oil reserves and causing a major geopolitical instability that private companies like Vaultec, Robco, Repcon Aerospace, and Big MT took advantage of to increase their capital with military defense contracts. The private tech companies were filling their coffers, which prolonged and worsened the world's problems. The invasion of Mexico caused hundreds of thousands of casualties on both sides, yet the US stock market surged. This led the European Union to follow in the US footsteps and invade the Middle East. And by the end of 2052, any pretense of freedom and peace that the great powers of the world had used in the past had been dropped. The world was openly competing for oil. The rich got richer, but the crash was coming. December 2053, the Middle East was taken over by the Europeans, and a nuclear bomb was detonated in Tel Aviv. Hundreds of thousands of people died in seconds, and the city was reduced to ashes. The destruction of the Israeli capital was the first time nukes had been used since World War II. The world was reminded that nuclear bombs still existed, and soon the world would be consumed by the chaos that had been unleashed. The destruction of Tel Aviv plunged the planet into a state of paranoia never seen before, further boosting the production of military-grade weapons and underground bunkers.
Now that right there is Vault 4's 3-foot thick lead casing, strong enough to keep out the rads and the reds.
While the fear of a nuclear fallout gripped the world, the spreading of an old virus added to the list of crises that further benefited private companies. Westtech was hired by the US government to develop a cure for the new plague pandemic. Conspiracy theorists believe that the virus was created by Westtech themselves to later sell the cure to the government. Many people died during the pandemic, and Westtech profited and grew into one of the most highly valued companies on the market. Back to the Europeans. The invasion of the Middle East did not yield the results they expected. The issues around the world and the subsequent nuclear drops led to the collapse of the United Nations and sparked civil wars. By February 2060, the world was in all-out chaos. The invasions proved non-beneficial for the populations. Only the power and money-hungry corporations gained something out of the world's suffering. Then, 6 years later, wars, epidemics, and famines led to the point of no return, and one nation took the opportunity to seize everything. China launched a full-scale invasion of Alaska to take control of its resources, in what they considered to be a necessary move to ensure their survival. However, the United States foresaw this attack and was prepared for it. The US allies and Canada sent troops to help protect Alaska's oil facilities, bravely intercepting the Chinese army. As the world teetered on the brink of annihilation, Vaultec, Westtech, Robco, and other companies conspired to maintain power after the possible end of civilization.
There's a lot of earning potential with the end of the world. How can you guarantee results?
By dropping the bomb ourselves.
The militarization of Canada by the United States was seen by many as an appropriation. This sparked a new rebellion that led to the sabotage of the Alaskan oil pipelines, which ultimately forced the United States to annex Canadian territories and take complete control of Canada's troops. By 2070, the United States had claimed Canada as its own, and by 2077, after years of conflict, the US expelled China from the Alaskan territory. It was a short-lived victory, as China was plotting its retaliation. The US president's advisors warned that a nuclear war was imminent. There were no resources left in the world. Oil had run out, as had many important metals and minerals. The overall collapse of the world was unavoidable. There were no more countries left to invade and pillage. No markets were sustainable, and resources were running out. The executives of the large tech companies knew this, and together with the leaders of the United States, they devised a plan on how they could maintain control after the end of the world. These companies concluded that the only way to preserve their dominance was to destroy civilization and build a new world from its ashes, to provoke a nuclear holocaust before China or another country caused it, to ensure the destruction of the world, but on their terms. A world with fewer people means less competition and sufficient resources. The solution to overpopulation was to destroy the population.
How can you guarantee results?
By dropping the bomb ourselves.
Saturday, October 23rd, 2077, was the date of the end of the world. The fears that had suffocated humanity were realized. It was 12:03 a.m. when the radars detected the presence of several submarines off the coast of California. The American military informed the president that these were nuclear-armed submarines. 3 hours later, Chinese bombers were detected approaching the Barents Sea. The military prepared for an imminent attack as nuclear missiles were being launched from the subs. By 9:13 a.m., there was no longer any doubt. Nuclear war had begun. Many missiles were intercepted. However, at 9:42 a.m., the first bombs struck American soil. Pennsylvania and New York were destroyed in a matter of seconds. In retaliation, the United States and its allies launched their nuclear bombs. Missiles were striking the world's major cities within minutes. The entire world launched its bombs, and the world burned. The nuclear catastrophe lasted 2 hours. 2 hours that felt like 2,000 years that destroyed everything. The world was sacrificed so that greedy and powerful executives could live. It remains unclear whether the tech companies like Vault-Tec only took advantage of China's attacks on the US, or if it was all planned out by the rich executives. The story of humanity's last great war in Fallout reminds us why maintaining control leads the system to consume and destroy those who are a part of it. It's a cycle that never ends, a war that never changes.
War never changes.
Cooper Howard's story begins in the early 2030s. He was the pride and joy of his home and his city, an exemplary young boy who excelled at everything he did and was loved by all. When Cooper reached adulthood, he decided to answer the call to become a true hero, to defend the weak, and to fight in the name of his nation. He answered the call of destiny and enlisted in the armed forces. Cooper wanted to prove his bravery and to be a protector of his country, but he had no idea what was in store for him. In 2067, he joined the United States Army Corps and was soon deployed to war, where he gained experience as a soldier and established his own moral code. It is during his deployments that Howard's view of the world begins to change. He saw that violence can be the means to protect what he loves most. Cooper stood out as one of the best, surviving missions that many other soldiers did not. During a mission in Alaska, Cooper and his team used T-45 power armor suits in combat, but malfunctions in the armor suits caused the deaths of several members of his unit. Howard survived, but suffered severe injuries and was forced to retire from the army, receiving an honorable discharge. Cooper was forcefully removed from the field of battle due to a mistake made by those he trusted. To mask the lethal mistake, Cooper was then paraded as a national hero. He puts down his rifle and picks up a mask, pursuing a new career as an actor, and by 2077, everyone knew who Cooper Howard was. His films, such as A Man and His Dog and The Man from Dead Horse, were worldwide successes. Cooper's star rose, and his face was everywhere. But how did he grow to be so famous? Well, during his film career, the world was in a Cold War, under a constant nuclear threat. His films were used by Vault-Tec to distract people from what was happening in the world. Cooper became an exemplary American icon. Ironically, Howard continued to serve his country, just with a different arsenal. It is then that Cooper meets his future wife, Barb, with whom he has a daughter named Jeannie. Barb was an executive at Vault-Tec, which logically paved the way for Cooper to become the face of the company. The soldier's image was placed everywhere, promoting a new future, a paradise created by the corporation's technology, like a Vault-Tec Captain America. But then Cooper discovers that Vault-Tec was connected to the creation of the power armor suits that injured him and killed his brothers in arms. Cooper soon realized that this company is not interested in people's safety, but in preserving its power. He was not helping people. He was only a tool being used by the system. It is here that the soldier/actor joins anti-technology activists and others who want to end the threat looming over the world. Then Cooper learns something horrible. Publicly, Vault-Tec had rivals, such as West-Tec or Robco, but secretly, all these companies were collaborating. The second season of Fallout shows that Robco was responsible for bringing about the nuclear destruction of the world, confirming all of Cooper's suspicions. These companies were not seeking the safety of the people, but to maintain power. It is also shown that Cooper Howard was sent to investigate the founder of Robco in Las Vegas. During the trip, Cooper learned that he had indeed worked for the system that would destroy the world. After Howard's trip to Las Vegas, he divorces Barb, so naturally, he was quickly replaced as the poster boy of Vault-Tec by Pip-Boy, and the government and corporations blacklisted him. A smear campaign was launched against him, accusing him of being a communist, violent, and many other bad things. Cooper lost everything. He lost his fame, influence, career, family, and honor for doing the right thing. To make ends meet, he became an entertainer for kids' birthday parties, dressed up as a cowboy. On October 23, 2077, the nuclear bombs fell. Howard watches as all his fears come true. The Fallout series takes place more than 200 years into the future, and Cooper Howard is transformed into a shadow of what he once was, although he still has moments where he remembers of his life as a man. The ghoul has consumed everything the man once was. Now he is nothing more than a monster. How does a protector, a soldier who fought all his life, become what he once fought against? When the bombs fell, the actor's mask that Cooper Howard wore fell. The protector was gone. All that remained was the killer. The violence he once used as justification to protect others, he now uses to kill. When Lucy meets the ghoul, he tells her that they are more similar than they appear, which isn't completely inaccurate because Lucy's life is a reflection of Cooper's. Lucy was born within an illusion of a perfect world. She sees herself as a heroine who must stop her father to save the people. For Howard, salvation is no longer possible. Lucy just hasn't figured that out yet. Cooper is the hero who lived long enough to become everything he hated, and Lucy seems destined to be the same. Why does this story sound so familiar?
You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
I did everything they told me to.
The story of the hero turned villain has been repeated throughout human mythology. This archetype originates from the Epic of Gilgamesh. Being over 4,000 years old, it is one of the oldest tales in human history. Gilgamesh was a king, admired and feared in equal measure. He created and destroyed as he wished, like a god who ruled man without compassion. Gilgamesh was uncontrollable by the gods of heaven, so they decided to create another version of Gilgamesh, named Enkidu, his twin, but more human, with feelings, empathy, and love for all things. When Gilgamesh met him, he saw in his doppelganger someone equally powerful, but with faculties that he lacked. Thus, the cruel king began to change and turned into a protector of his people. Gilgamesh, together with Enkidu, defeated many monsters and dangers to protect the people. Together, they were invincible, but arrogance soon began to blind the king again, and the gods decided to punish him by taking away his twin. The gods killed Enkidu, breaking the king's heart and taking away the only thing that made him human. Gilgamesh felt fear for the first time, fear for his mortality, that at any moment he could die, and so the king went on a journey to find immortality. Gilgamesh spent years searching for the secret of immortality, but only learned that living forever could be a more cruel punishment than death. The king returns home with the understanding and acceptance that everything must end. He lived on ruling over his kingdom, but as a different man who had accepted the inevitable. Gilgamesh is the king who lived long enough to transcend from being a cruel king to a compassionate king. Someone who starts evil can become good, and so can the opposite happen. Howard is the hero who lives long enough to become the monster that never dies. Immortality has robbed Cooper of the chance to truly live. He has lost his humanity. Now Howard fulfills the role of a mentor, and Lucy is following in his footsteps, transforming from a heroine into possibly the greatest threat in the wasteland. When knowledge is too cruel and real for some, it doesn't free them. It turns them into the worst version of themselves. The shadow takes control of their lives, and what they once were ceases to exist forever.
They're gonna put me in the movies.
The darkest aspect of this story is that the second season shows what happened when Cooper traveled to Las Vegas. The true purpose of his trip was to end the life of the owner of Robco, but Cooper failed in his mission. The roots of the ghoul's bad attitude stem from the fact that he could have prevented the end of the world. Cooper could have prevented his daughter's death, but he missed the opportunity. At one point, Cooper believed he would be the protector of the nation, but he couldn't protect his family, and that destroyed him. It turned him into a killer, a shadow of his former self. The hero is dead and reincarnated as a tragic monster who longs to return to what he once was. It's the same sad story that never changes. Lucy's story and her journey towards the truth sound cliché, as it fulfills one of the most repeated story archetypes. The same element we've seen in other works like The Matrix, Tron, or The Truman Show, and whose origins can be found in Plato's book, The Republic. The book tells an allegory so revolutionary that it has been the origin of religions and many works of fiction, books, movies, etc. Plato's allegory of the cave connects to the story of Fallout. Now, how could a story from over 2,000 years ago explain the story of a post-apocalyptic world destroyed by nuclear bombs? Let's find out. Imagine a group of people who have lived inside a cave since forever, chained in such a way that they can only look forward at one of the cave walls. Behind them is a bonfire, and between the fire and the prisoners, someone is projecting shadow figures onto the wall. The only thing the chained men perceive is the shadows projected on the cave wall. For them, these shadows are real. They give them names, argue about them, and believe they know what the world is like, even though they have never seen anything outside these shadow puppets. Now let's imagine that one of the chainmen is unchained and freed from the cave. The person who sees the light of the fire will realize that the shadows weren't real. They were just objects. Then he will see that there is another, much larger source of light. Upon leaving the cave, he will discover that there is something called the sun. When he looks up at the star, he is momentarily blinded because he has never seen anything so bright. Then, after understanding the truth of the world, the freed man returns to the cave to help the others. Upon returning, he finds it difficult to see in the darkness. He stumbles, and the other prisoners mock him. The freed man explains to the others that there is another world outside the cave, but they don't believe him. They say that he went mad after leaving the cave, and that they no longer want him in the cave. Furthermore, when he tries to free them, they become hostile. Why? Well, because they don't want him to destroy their world. Plato said that if they could, they would have killed him to protect what they know. For Plato, the cave is a metaphor for human ignorance and man's struggle to escape from it. Not everyone can get to the other side, but those who do and return to warn others are often cast out. This is also the tragedy of Socrates, who after knowing the truth was put down by his own people. This is the story of other messianic archetypes, such as Jesus or Buddha, or fictional characters such as Neo or Kevin Flynn. And it is also Lucy's story. They are all archetypes of the savior who awaken from the lies of their world of shadows. Born underground, Lucy grows up in a world created by Vault-Tec. She lives in ignorance of the real world and under arbitrary rules. Each vault has different rules, so you could say that each one contains a different world for those who live in it.
Where are you taking him?
To the real world. You should see it sometime.
The vaults, as you might have already guessed, are a parallel to Plato's allegory of the cave. It's a psychological and sociological experiment, as within the vaults, there are false societies, shadows created to deceive people to perfect the imperfect world. In the first episode of the second season of Fallout, we saw a vault where the people were manipulated with communist propaganda, and one particular person was shown tied to a chair. Doesn't that sound familiar? How this allegory is repeated thousands of years later. It's the same story, the same tale that Plato wrote about an enlightened person who tries to warn others about the world that lies beyond the shadows. So what is Fallout about? For the Gnostics, the real world was nothing more than a construct of an imperfect and arrogant creator who believed they could seize all power and create their perfect world, but instead created an imperfect one, full of contradictions and suffering. Lucy's father is this imperfect demiurge who destroyed the world to rebuild it in his own image. He created the cave to subjugate human consciousness underground and maintain control over what happened in that world. The story hidden behind Fallout is the same repeated story about how the human soul struggles to find the truth in a world full of lies. Even when your reality is constructed by your parents, by your religion, by your politics, or by society, there is still the feeling of wanting to escape the system.
I am the architect. I created the Matrix.
There's no more truth out there than there is in the world I created for you.
I took the system to its maximum potential. I created the perfect system.
It is poetic that even today, in one of the most difficult moments in our history, where it's becoming more difficult to tell the difference between what is fake and what is real because of artificial intelligence, Plato's allegory of the cave remains more relevant than ever. Its structure continues to repeat itself to the point that it has been a constant warning for more than 2,000 years. But we must not confuse the shadows with the truth. Are we destined to forever live in shadows, or will we find the way out of the cave? This allegory reveals something important that applies to Lucy and perhaps to our world, and that is that the truth is not shared. Lucy cannot save the people of her vault. As we have already seen in the first season, Lucy has lost her innocence in more than one way, and if she tried to reintegrate into Vault 33, she would end up destroying that society, or that society would end up destroying her. As Plato rightly said, and I'm paraphrasing, too much knowledge would be a problem for those who live in ignorance. Lucy chose to continue her journey to stop her father. Her purpose now is to destroy the old system. And as in other stories that have these archetypes, Lucy may end up sacrificing herself to save or restart the world. She is a moral anomaly. She is the only person willing to help anyone and sees the good in people, and the harsh wasteland is putting that goodness to the test. Will she stay true to her naive optimism? The story of Fallout is the same story of the Messianic archetype trying to escape a cave of shadows and lies, while possibly being part of the very system they're trying to stop. It's the same story that repeats itself like clockwork, with no one able to stop it.
War never changes.
Norm MacLean was destined to continue Vault-Tec's dominance. However, one day Norm and his sister Lucy escaped with their mother from Vault 33 after suspecting that their father Hank was lying to them and that there was a habitable city on the surface, and they found one, a town called Shady Sands that would then become a target of Vault-Tec. Even though Norm was just a child and clearly doesn't remember the events of those days in Shady Sands, he does remember the feeling of being outside, the warmth of the sun on his face, and the feeling of knowing that the world was more than just lit corridors underground. Their father dragged him and Lucy back into the depths. Hank thought that with time, his children would forget the outside world, that it was all just a dream, and it worked for a bit. Something within Norm never stopped longing for the warm light of the outside world. He remembered that there was something bigger outside the bunker, outside the cave where his father held him and others captive. Those memories of Shady Sands could never become fading dreams. They stayed alive in Norm. That's why he was bored of every job he was assigned. No role in the community satisfied him. Nothing felt good enough. Norm didn't want to fit in. He wanted to get out. And Lucy shared that sentiment. That's why when the time came, Norm helped his sister to escape the vault. The siblings separated. Lucy finds her awakening in the real world and sees how cruel it can be through the actions of those who inhabit the surface. Norm, on the other hand, awakens by looking inward at the lies created by his father. He sees how cruel his world is to the people shielded from reality. They were both enlightened by the truth, but their awakening takes a deeper, dangerous, and darker path. the path that pushes Norm to take his father's place.
What are you doing?
Thawing everyone.
What? No! You can't just thaw them all!
Unlike other members of Vault 33, Norm doesn't follow instructions. He disobeys them, attacks them, and then leads the Vault-Tec executives outside, lying to them and making them believe that they are part of a plan to reclaim the world. Norm, like his father, used deception to his advantage. We saw how Norm uses the executives as stepping stones towards the outside, towards the real world. He destroyed the Vault-Tec protocol and felt the sun on his face once again. The story of a son who goes against his father, thus becoming something worse. What does this story remind you of?
I know that sounds bad.
Stand up.
The archetype of the child who surpasses their parents originates from Greek mythology. In the beginning, there was Uranus, a primordial god who feared his offspring. Afraid of being replaced, he kept his children trapped inside Gaia's womb, preventing them from being born. Gaia, wary of this confinement, conspires against Uranus and helped one of her sons, Kronos, escape. Kronos overthrew his father and seized power, only to then commit the same mistake. According to the myth, terrified by a prophecy that foretold that one of his children would dethrone him, Kronos devoured all of his children at birth. Yet the prophecy could not be avoided, as Zeus was born and raised in secret. The son of Kronos would return and defeat his father, thus establishing the cycle. The father fears the son dethrones the father, and power is exchanged through violence, just like Norm and his father. Norm, Lucy, and their mother escaped to the surface and found another world. That is when Hank gets scared and traps them inside Vault 33, just like Uranus, who confined his children to their mother's womb. Hank wanted his children to live forever in ignorance underground. For Vault-Tec, the best way to control the future is to control the present. Having children learn the truth is dangerous, because just as Zeus replaced Kronos and Kronos replaced Uranus, Norm is destined to replace Hank. A child who is not controlled can destroy an empire. This is why Vault-Tec does not allow any city to progress beyond them. Vault-Tec is the father, and those cities on the surface are the children, and the father does not want any of them to surpass them. Every time a new city emerges, the company sends someone to destroy or cannibalize it, like Kronos feeding on his children. The birth of Norm and Lucy represents the emergence of a new generation that wasn't supposed to escape the womb, but did. As old mythology dictates, they are destined to overthrow their father and become something worse. Norm manipulates people to lead them to the surface. He has already shown leadership and manipulative skills, the same attributes that led his father to the top of the food chain. Norm has earned his family name, as he is becoming something worse than Hank. So what do you think? Will Norm become a worse version of his father? I'm a Gloomy Geek, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
Are you aware that at every job you've been assigned to, your performance review has been lax enthusiasm?
No, but that sounds accurate.
What are you doing?
Thawing everyone.
What? No! You can't just thaw them all!